Welcome back, guys, and we are getting ready to talk about, well, to answer your guys' viewer questions. Um, Before the break, we were talking about the Japanese invite structure. We were talking about how our own invite structure needs to, well, not our invite structure, but our tournament structure needs to change a little bit. And hopefully you guys saw that. If you didn't, please go back and watch video number 1. I actually have no access to the viewer questions here on Facebook because of this weird timeline thing. So I'm going to let Kyle take over for this. So go ahead, buddy.
See what happens when you adapt to the new technology. You're able to do things.
Were you saving this stupid little speech for like the last 10 minutes?
No, it just came to my mind. But we actually have a question starting from Tuesday. So all the way back from Tuesday from Garrett Williamson.
All right.
Says he's from Arizona, so you might know him. It says, what do you think of Sage's training in Zekrom Electric? Personally, I find it useless and most of the time ineffective at getting energy discarded, and Thunderous, Junk Arm, Juniper, and everything else does a better job. So
I know you feel
Pram,
the same way, right, Kyle?
Pram, what do you think about Sage's training?
It's the worst card in the deck. Out of all the supporters you could choose, it's probably the worst. Twins is better.
Oh, come on.
Black Belt's better. Yeah, I mean, there's a Seeker's better.
Sharon better?
Yeah, Sharon's better. Cheerleaders cheer, or I think that's what's called cheerleaders cheer.
Yes.
That might be worse.
Just because your opponent gets to draw.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there any like Mom's Kindness or Bill? Bill's legal. Yeah, Bill is debatably worse.
Are you kidding me?
Well, think about it.
What about
Bill,
MC's
you draw
chatter?
2. Oh, that's better. 50% of the time.
Flip a coin. If heads, you draw 3.
I know what
if
it
tails,
is.
You draw 2.
I know what it is. It's better 50% of the time.
But Engineer's Adjustments.
Oh, that's just flat out better.
That card is terrible.
Better than Sage. I mean, you're just like saying which one's like worse at that point.
And to answer your question, Crim, yes, I do agree. I actually had Sage's training in the deck, and then like every game I played, I was just like, started with 3 Sage, I think, and then I played a game, I was like, this is not very good. And then I played another game, I was like, this definitely is not good. So then I cut down to 2, and then I played another game, I was like, logic tells me that this card should probably be in this deck, so I'm going to keep trying. And then eventually I was like, alright, this card is horrible. And I went down to 1.
The hell is logic? You just throw the cards away.
And then the next week I just was like, you know, anytime I had this card I wished it was anything except Sage. Even a Lightning Energy. So I just took it out for another supporter.
Maybe even a Bill.
Now I play Alright, Bill would not have been.
Hey, staring down nothing and Bill, you take Bill every time.
Might take a Lightning.
Which will you get off Bill? Maybe.
I would take Team Rocket's Trickery. Not
Dude, that card's good.
that card's good.
Compared to Sage? You're still netting three cards in terms of advantage.
Alright, so that answers that question. What do you think, though, Crim?
I'm the wrong person to ask because I didn't really play that deck. Like, I honestly...
You didn't play Zekrom Electric? Oh, that's right. Why
with
didn't
that
you play
said,
Zekrom Electric?
Because I never had enough time. Like, I'm here, buddy. I'm in Vegas. I haven't had enough time.
Come
to play
on, man.
That,
I gave you a perfect list. Perfect.
I felt comfortable with my Celebi Tornadus.
How'd that get you?
Failed me. Got me to top 16, and then I lost the mirror. Or I lost the Zekrom Electric. I'm sorry. Yeah. Either way, let's move on. No.
I just want to say I think Sage is good in Magnezone decks, and that is it. Actually, it's good in decks with rare candy, because you need to find a rare candy, otherwise you just lose. That's the only time Sage is acceptable for me.
It's like you read my mind.
Plus, you can get rid of other rare candies later on if you don't need them.
Yeah, no, I was about to say the exact same thing that Kyle just mentioned. That I think that Sage's training definitely belongs to the format. Obviously, it's a reasonable card in setup decks, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of Juniper, and I think Pont is the next best thing in pretty much every deck this format has, and I max out on both of those before I even do anything else. That's just like basic rule A number one for me. Basic rule A number one.
Could you have gotten any more redundant?
Well, if you look at this like an outline,
basic rule A number one, Roman numeral 1.
Juniper better than Pont. Numeral 2, Pont better than everything else. Not named Juniper. Actually, for my supporter ranking, I think Pont's better in most cases.
I mean, you still max out on both of them.
I mean, like, the only cases... Yeah, you do. But, like, the only cases Juniper is better is, like, when you have, like... Alright, I'm going to play down my hand completely, and then I'm going to Juniper. Otherwise,
yeah, there's a lot of spots where I've noticed a lot of pretty good players Juniper away, like 3-card hands that include, like, Junk Arm and like, a Pont or something. I'm just like, oh, dude, that's got to be wrong.
Well, maybe you should reevaluate your word of good.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, like, a lot of people overvalue Pont, or I'm sorry, I meant Juniper, and they just Juniper in situations where it's clearly correct to Pont, and that's, I mean, yeah, I'm going to use the word good because, I mean, these guys are good players for the most part. A lot of players that are, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but yeah, a lot of players make that crucial mistake, and I mean, at least from what I've seen, that's a big mistake that a lot of people don't catch, and that's just, it proves that the power of Pont. Pont is actually a really good card this format because junk arms are crucial. A lot of your trainers are really crucial. You don't want to just throw them away for no reason. That's just something I've noticed.
Which is strange because it was just not even 2 years ago where Yuta Komatsuda played down this mysterious card with a Professor Oak on it, and Michael Pram needed to call over the translator to see what it did.
Hey man, no one played Pont then. How am I supposed to know? I didn't even, like, they would play switches on me and I didn't know what that was until they did it. I was like, oh, that must be Switch. And then I, like, recalled one time at, like, a pre-release I saw that version of Switch and I was just like, oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, kind of showing the evolution of supporters. A supporter that really didn't get played like a year and a half ago is now one of the best, if not the best supporter we have.
Yeah, I mean, again, the discarding thing. That's why Sage is so bad right now in Zekrom Electric, is because you discard a lot of crucial cards. Like, you discard your Junk Arms, you discard your catchers and all that. And that's kind of why Pont's better than Juniper right now, is because same situation. But sometimes you're forced to Juniper, so you have to do it anyways. But, like, you're just forced to discard those Junk Arms for catchers. And really, Juniper is so good as end recovery. So good. You get end for 2, but you've only played 1 Juniper that entire game. Your deck is loaded.
Especially if you're Michael Pram. Like, at that point, you have like a 50% chance of starting with a Juniper.
Come on, man. I'm not that good.
It goes up to 90% of the next 2 cards. So, no, you're fine.
I'm not that good. I wouldn't get it off the 2 cards. I would draw it off the prize.
We've beaten poor Sage to death. Let's move on. So the next question is from the name that nobody can pronounce.
Random letters, huh?
Yes. Who asks, in your opinion, what are the 3 most difficult states to play in? So who wants to take that?
California's number 1. I'll say that, and I'll stand by it. Then probably Florida, number 2. And number 3... I don't know. Number 3 is tough.
From whose perspective? From my personal...
In your opinion.
So I guess from my personal perspective...
What do you think are the 3 most difficult states to play in?
Well, let me tell you what I was going to answer if it was just some Joe Schmo. Whatever state I'm in. I was like, oh man, I'm going to say that. It's going to be so cocky and cool. Real answer... I think Florida's kind of tough. I think California's tough just based on numbers, and they have a pretty good player base, so they're good, and there's a lot of people. That third one.
I'm really in the tank here. I really can't come up with a
The
good
third
pick.
one's tough. I almost don't want to put Ohio on there.
I would put.
Whatever states have the 3 biggest population of players.
Yeah, but you can have a huge population and them be just terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it still just makes it tougher based on the numbers. There's more
Not
variance.
really.
Yeah. Like California, I don't care who's there. Like, just the fact that there's 250 players means there's less room for error.
You know how many times I've drawn dead hands but still won? Because, I mean, like...
It's less forgiving in this format, I think.
Which brings me back to round 1 of California States. That's depressing. You think you're about to lose with a lone Terrakian draw go for like 6 turns and you manage to pull that one off? Yes, thank God for the theme decks, baby. Thank God for the theme decks of this room.
That's what I was saying back to the...
Even some theme decks would have finished you off by then.
That's what I was saying back
The
towards
new
the
ones with
topics.
the Restram. And
I think it was round 2, by the way. Because round 1, I shouldn't say the guy tried to cheat me, but yeah, I'll save that one for after we finish with the third, because this is actually kind of a cool story.
Okay, so Kyle, what's your top 3 while we mull over our third ones?
I'm Briscoe's just saying like Jersey or something.
California's number 1. I think Florida's number 2. Although Florida has gotten weaker now that a lot of the players actually stopped playing. People like the Silvestros and others that were like the thing that made Florida so threatening, like Eric Craig, people like that stopped playing. So Florida hasn't been as difficult, but still has high numbers. Number 3, I honestly don't know. Maybe. I could argue Ohio, just because they had such a huge turnout for states. I don't think that...
Whatever, I'm going with Virginia because I'm here.
I'll go for it. Illinois, if Jason and Chuck are around.
Which they're not. I mean,
They're close to
Jason-
Florida, aren't they?
Jason was around for Illinois states.
Yeah, I mean, even then, like Chuck's not there. I mean, it's hard to argue for these player bases with mediocre numbers, but great players. I really wouldn't argue for that because I really feel like the bigger the number, the more difficult this tournament has to be. And I think the next largest tournament is probably going to be Oregon or like up there. Like it's one of the Northwest states that has a really big tournament that had a really large states. I can't remember which one. Like 200 plus player state. I don't know. Either way.
Oregon, Washington.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you want to just go with Canada, the country of Canada?
The country of Canada is a third. But either way, I think it's pretty safe to say that you're looking at a pretty clear top 2, and then the third one is just
Big, yeah.
Yeah. Either way, these tournaments are tough. I mean, it's hard to find an easy state anymore. So. But yeah, real quick before we move on to the next question, round 1 of California. I want to say California states. I can't remember. My opponent on the first or second turn shuffles his hand into his deck and says Professor Oak's new theory, and I just look at him like, I don't think I told this story yet. I just look at him like, are you serious, sir? And then he like looks through his deck and then he finds the new theory and he's like, see here, and I'm like, oh man, this is not good, you know. So obviously, I feel like I'm personally forced to call a judge, and I mean he frowned upon it, but I don't know what else I can tell him. Yeah, it might not have been deliberate, but there's no way you can just let an opponent get away with that, because obviously at that point anybody can just
like
kind of walk all over you.
It's like someone not showing their mulligan. I'm mulligan,
Yeah.
I swear.
Exactly. Which is actually kind of funny because the exact same time I mulliganed and I like spread my hand out and I said mulligan and everything. And we were being really cool with each other, but after he did that, I had no choice but to ask the judge. And then all of a sudden he looks at me and he's like, I didn't actually see you mulligan. And I was like, man, I showed it to you. I don't know what else I can do there. I fanned it out in the field and everything, and I clearly declared it, and you gave me the nod. So I mean, whatever. Either way, yeah, that was like a pretty interesting story for me because I was just, I mean, you're kind of awestruck when somebody just like shovels their hand into the deck. Then they like look at they like search their deck for opponents. Like, see, I had it. All right, you're right. I mean, you definitely have it in your deck. So that was kind of interesting. I heard a story about, and I don't know if this was the same person or not, but I heard a story later in the day about somebody like walking up to me and going like, man, somebody just said that they played against one of the top cut guys earlier, and that he was a real rules lawyer. And I was like, oh, I guess it must have been me. I guess I should. He didn't expect for me to ask the judge in that situation, but either way, that was kind of a funny interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, you can't just let your opponent shuffle your hand in your deck and draw a new hand. Yeah.
Exactly, and you have no choice. Even if you have like almost no doubt in your mind that the guy did it unintentionally, you still have to do it. That's part of the game. And it's like I told him, I would call the judge on myself there. I mean, if I did it, if I was, if I made that giant mistake, I would have to mess
Just follow a no take back rule, and then
and that's exactly what I kind of like try to explain to a lot of players, that I don't take back things. I don't want to put them in their spot.
Yeah, because that's so awkward when they're like, if they ever go, can I take that back? It's like, why are you asking me?
Yeah.
It's like that's just a really awkward position that people shouldn't put each other in.
That actually brings me to another point, real quick. I mean, I'm not even going to finish my other point. That one's, you guys can make your own decision with that. But there's judges that actually, like, for example, say something major happens in the game, and something that honestly is really hard to fix, and the judge gets involved, and the judge is about to say, hey, look, this is game loss, or this is a huge, this is a prize penalty, and basically it's going to mean the game. Then all of a sudden the judge steps in and says, I mean, it's up to your opponent here. Like, if your opponent that's big, dude. Oh man, I don't say anything obviously because I'm in no position to say anything there. But geez, man, I really wish people didn't do that, because that's not right. That's not fair to the player that's getting the reward. They didn't make that mistake, and they shouldn't be forced to basically either be the bad guy or the good guy. That's not their role, and that I've seen it happen multiple times recently. That's why I really want to mention it, because I thought it was non-existent, and then all of a sudden within the last couple of states and like a couple cities, I saw it happen a few times, and I was just like, oh man, that sucks. That's not right.
That happened at one of the cities I went to. I was the person who's asked that question, so that was like,
that's not right.
I was like, oh, well, I can either disadvantage myself and try to lose, or I can, and thus being a nice guy, or I can say, hey, why did you come here? To win.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're giving me the option here. Take the win or walk away. And, it's just like, you shouldn't put players into that position.
Absolutely.
Because players, they go to a tournament to win. And when you say, hey, here's the two evils. You can look like a jerk and take the prize, whatever, game win, whatever. Or you can look like a really nice guy and lose the match.
Yeah, I mean, I hope nobody feels like, if anybody's reading this or hearing this, actually, I hope they don't, take this as a personal attack on them, because it's not. It's just, everybody makes mistakes, and I personally feel like that's, if that's in the judge's handbook to allow the player, then that shouldn't be there. That's just wrong, and I hope it isn't. So I just hope that this type of situation doesn't happen, because it's not right. It's not. It's totally against the spirit of the game. Completely against.
Yeah, I feel like there should just be whatever they determine the penalty to be, and they just dish it out. I think it'd just be much better, where the players have no say in terms of, would you like your opponent to take that, right? Yeah. But then that gets back to the point where I think prize penalties are a bad way of penalizing a player. I think it should just be warning and then game loss.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It states, for me, face this guy I knew, and out of the blue he just goes to shuffle his hand into his deck, and it's like a slow motion moment. It's like, no, and I'm like, whoa, stop, what are you doing? And he got his hand to his deck. He's like, oh, yeah, Hook's new theory. And he shuffles his hand into his deck. I was like, oof, that was close. And he's like, yeah, thank you for stopping me. And then, no joke, 2 turns later, he does it again. And he just goes to shuffle his hand into his deck, and he puts his hand on top of his deck. I was like, whoa, stop! And he's like, oh, I did it again. And I was like, well, alright, the first time he's honest, so, I mean, if you honestly had it, I'll let you just take it off the top of your deck or whatever and do it. I know I should call a judge, but in that situation, I feel like, alright, this guy's telling the truth. He's just nervous or something. And I let him do it, yeah. And he was mad at himself. So, I mean, accidents do happen, but my case was probably an extreme case where I'm 100% sure my opponent was just...
Well, not only that, but his hand's still at the top of the deck, so he can just say, like, oh yeah, it's like 4 cards down or whatever, and sure enough, there it is.
I think the number one way to prevent accidents is just to play slower. You just take... Yeah, I mean, you just go take a deep breath, and then play slightly slower, and you're good.
Oh, baby. I know all about that. All right, let's go to the next question.
All right, let's move on. From Franklin Ararte. How do you all learn from your losses? Do you sometimes second-guess your builds, card choices, or strategies?
No, I always get unlucky. I'm like the unluckiest player in Pokemon.
Well, you can go
This is an example of what not to be.
Okay, I'll take this question. You can go into denial like Crim here, or you can question everything. I know every time I take a loss, even when I win, I question whether I did the right play. I question my build all the time. And then I question like decision points where it was like which one is more correct. And yeah, I mean, you just have to be very self-critical of everything you do if you want to improve.
I agree with that. I think you should be questioning yourself even when you win. Just because you won doesn't mean you did everything right. And I think this is something that as more games get recorded and you can go back and, like in StarCraft, it's the thing where you go back and look at your replays to see where you went wrong and stuff like that. In Pokemon, if we start recording more games, you can go back and look to see, did I screw up anywhere? Is there something I could have done better? And for me, yeah, it's always... I don't think I ever play a perfect day, a perfect tournament of Pokemon. I'm sure I screw up somewhere at some point. And it's just trying to figure out where that happened and what I can do better. I know my deck list isn't always perfect, but I come to accept that. You know, you can always change one card or something here or there that would have been better for the day. I don't worry about that too much. Just more in-game strategies and overall deck building stuff, like did I have enough supporters, that kind of stuff.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, generally...
You have enough supporters? Do
yeah.
you?
Generally, I've been fortunate enough where every time I made a slight mistake, I just drew out of it. But,
so is that.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of like know it right away. You're just like, oh! And then you just draw your card, you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
I'm going to give you guys a little insight into the Top Cuts deck building. And we might have gone over this a little, earlier before, but I think it's still interesting as heck. You have Kyle, who's one extreme. He literally has, like, everybody has, like, five spots in their deck to work with, maybe a few less, whatever. But you always look at, all of our decks are kind of similar, but then you have Kyle, who has, like, 3 spots in his deck to work with, and he's like, alright, well, it's going to be 3 supporters. Wonder which 3 it's going to be. And then you look at Pram, who's like, oh, baby, 3 spots? Well, I don't really need supporters. See what I can fit.
How can I improve my other... Actually, that's somewhat true. That's somewhat true. I actually go, if there is those 3 spots, I go, what matchups do I need to test versus? Well, I have 3 spots to play with. Let's see what three golden bullets work.
I'm always somewhere in between them both. I'm always like, well, and I mean, yeah, me and Pram kind of do run a little bit low on supporters compared to Kyle. But I mean, give me a break. Half of Kyle's deck is...
It's kind of hard to mess up with this format. I mean, you just play 12 supporters, gears, and go nuts.
Well, Kyle likes the 13 to 14 range. At least when I remember.
Actually, I'm up to 13 right now. Yeah. But one of them's a seeker, so it doesn't count.
I went down to 11.
Whoa, I'm more consistent! Oh!
But
mine just got
I also ran more Tynamos.
Well, I just rationed out that you only need 2 electrics out. So if one gets sniped, no big deal.
Just have to hope one's never prized. Well,
sometimes they don't get sniped. Sometimes.
In a perfect world, your 38 point guys, they always keep swimming.
Hey, I've won games where I never got electric out until, like, last turn. It'd be like, oh no, 2 of them were prized, and then one of them got sniped. Oh no. And then you're down to, like, 1 prize each, and you're like, this is the turn, I'm doing a 4 energy Mewtwo hit. Out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that's insight into us, as deckers and players and everything like that. Yeah, I'm gonna give a serious answer. Yeah, you guys gave the cookie cutter answer. Yeah, obviously you want to figure out, but sometimes there's just gonna be games where it's better to just move on. Don't dwell too much. It's a long tournament. It really is. And what you want to do is you want to keep your mind fresh. Like, yeah, there's going to be situations where you get unlucky. Be situations where you make the most major misplay in the world. You cannot dwell on these things. Just move on.
But the question is, how do I get better, not how do I get through a tournament?
Well, okay, that's true. You do definitely want to examine your tournament at the end afterwards. You want to examine where you messed up, what you might have been able to build differently, whatever. But in the meantime, there's one thing I can suggest is just keep a clear mind in these tournaments because 9 rounds of Swiss, X rounds of Swiss, whatever. I mean, these are tough. You got to just keep your mind focused. But continue.
I think the important concept here is just because you lost doesn't mean you did screw up. A good example of this was I read that tournament report by Asa Huntunen, whatever his last name is, from the Deck Out. In his ECC report, he wrote he had a conflict on his last turn and his last game against Tom Hall in the top 8 or whatever it was, and he had a decision whether to do one thing or Juniper and try to draw an energy and win the game. And he ended up going for the Juniper, knowing, okay, if I draw an energy or a catch or whatever it was, I win the game and I move on. And he played the Juniper, which was the right thing. He drew his cards and he missed the energy, and he ended up losing. And he wrote in his report, I recognize that I've screwed up, I went for the wrong thing, and in the future I would not take that risk, and I would not do that, and I'm glad I learned from this. But really, he learned the wrong thing. He made the right play, it just didn't work out. Sometimes you play a Juniper and you don't draw an energy, that just happens. So it's important to keep a level head in that kind of situation, where even though you lost, it doesn't mean you screwed up. So that's kind of what Crim hinted at, but I just wanted to clarify on that. That happens a lot.
Exactly. All right, next question.
All right. From James Proctor, what do you guys think is the best deck in the format?
Well,
I think it's hard to argue against the top 2 decks. I don't think you can go wrong either way.
I think it's pretty clear that Zekrom Electric is the best. You know how good Thunderous is versus
I was gonna say even with all the Trakian hate, with all the
Trakian's not, or rather straight Trakian's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but I'm saying the fact that Trakian, I don't know. I don't really. I don't feel qualified enough to answer this question.
And I feel like Zekrom Electric's so all through states you only saw a really base list. You haven't seen a list that's really been pegged out. So if you can. Because it's that type of deck where you can just go, okay, I'm going to move some cards around, I'm going to counter Terrakion, and or just counter fighting in general. You can look at Kyle's list, for example. His list was 2 Tornadus, 2 Eviolite, and it was yeah, bring it, fighting.
I mean, even then, it's not a
My list was just, I'm not going to attack with Mewtwo unless you make it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the attitude everyone should take with Mewtwo. Unless you're forced to attack with Mewtwo, you shouldn't really attack with Mewtwo.
Well, that's not what I see. It's always, check out this, man, I got a $50 card, I'm putting it down. And then once you knock this one out, I got 2 more.
Yeah. Must be nice to live in that area.
Those people, I casted a couple of those games.
Good, that is that's more games than I want to admit. That's not just my area either, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is true. That's why I win mirror matches, man.
For me, I don't know if there is a best deck, but the most popular deck obviously is Zekrom Electric, and you have to deal with that deck. If your deck loses to that, if you're playing a Blastoise deck, you're not going to do well. You probably wouldn't do well even if Zekrom Electric wasn't the best deck or the most popular deck. But
you especially won't do well.
Ay, Kyle. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna take the cop-out answer and say there's two decks that are really popular. There's two decks you have to be prepared for. I don't want to choose one or the other because I feel like they're both really good. End of story. Yeah.
So Crim says the Thunderdome. From
Yeah.
Zach Bank, do you guys plan on participating in the video game championships if you hit some bad luck in the TCG?
I am a video game championship chobo, aka a newbie when it comes to video games. At least
Here's
Pokemon.
what happened in some places. Day 1, TCG tournament, person scrubs out, they don't make it to day 2. So day 2, they put together some ragtag Pokemon video game team. Nobody really showed up. They won. Free trip to Nationals. And that's what can happen. So I guess it pays to have a backup plan.
It's
But
true.
I don't think any of us
Can't
play
argue
it.
with that.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I mean, like, I have the game, but yeah, I don't. I beat the Elite Four, and then I was just like, I'm done.
Doesn't count.
I'm done. I'm done. I finished.
I know. Well, there was more game.
You have no idea how complicated the video game is.
I know. I know how complicated. Well, I have some idea on how complicated it is. I don't know all the specifics, but I respect people who do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I know about EV training and all that good stuff. Doesn't mean I do it. I haven't played a video game for Pokemon in longer than I care to recall. Probably like hard gold. I'm talking about like gold,
Yeah.
gold and stuff.
Like, I am super casual with the Game Boy game. I will, like, you'd be like, you want to battle? I'll be like, yeah. I'll use my Pidgeot. I use to fly around with. Like, that's like so. I mean, like,
We at the Top Cut are video game newbies.
I used to be very competitive when Diamond and Pearl came out, but I have not picked it up since the video game conflicted with the TCG. So all of us, and Drew as well, will be a resounding no. So, and someone also informed me that if you win a trip to Nationals for the video game, you can't play in the trading card game Nationals. You have to use your trip to play in the video game. So, that doesn't work, I guess. Don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's what I heard. So, I guess I'll ask this question, but from Dylan Courtney, what is the biggest tournament you have won?
go ahead, Crim. You
Oh,
first.
I'm getting trolled. I'm getting trolled. Alright. Well, I have a disclaimer. The disclaimer is that I've played in about 1/10 in as many tournaments as these guys. If that. Maybe even lower.
You're just full of excuses.
Man, I've played in like, let's say 5 state tournaments in all time. I played in like 5 states, maybe like 2 regionals all time. I've played in a few gym challenges, sure. I've gotten a lot of seconds, that's for sure. But cities is the biggest I've won. Still, remember, I've only played in 5 states, so don't judge me. Alright? I dare you guys to win a state in 5 tries.
I've done it in one.
Actually, I won a state on my first.
Same here.
I live in big
The
areas,
Buddha.
alright?
I was 1 for 1 on mine. I played a legitimate deck. I played Blaziken.
I did not.
I mean, I went through 3 Blaziken
Alright.
mirrors, but hey.
Let me tell you something, alright? I would have been able to sweep a tournament in which Kabutops can win a states. I guarantee you that much.
Not mine, buddy.
I would have gone EXO without even losing a prize.
No, you would have lost on time. You would have been like, there's no way he plays 2 Strength Charms. Oh no.
I actually played 1 in that deck. And they got it. I didn't list it on my list, so I didn't even get to use it for the top cut.
Oh yeah. What a
So
rip.
you would have had a chance there without my strength charm. I did have potion though.
I would have EXO'd that tournament in a heartbeat, man. You played.
I was waiting for you to acknowledge that one.
Are you kidding? Oh, God. Do you understand
Hey, man,
that it's
that
the biggest
potion was
injustice? Do you understand how big of an injustice it is that I haven't won one of these tournaments and people with decks like those can?
Hey, I played Potion at Worlds.
Oh jeez. Yeah, that one was. I played it. Yeah, no, I played Potion at
Mine healed 20.
Qualifier.
Mine healed 30.
Yeah, it's true. Yours was actually way worse, Kyle. Well, actually, if you think about it, when you compare the HP back then to the HP now, the 20s probably.
Well, my Kabutop's
Bigger
EX
percentage.
at 150. So.
Whoa. They actually had a Pokemon that much HP.
But see, back to the deck
Three.
building philosophies. That's where I was like, I have 3 spots.
Yeah, because you cut down to 119 Yeah, that was 2 spots I could use for something better
Hey.
like Potion.
I got to use Ninetales half my games.
Jeez. This is so...
Alright, Pram, what's the biggest tournament you've won?
Regionals, yeah, I've won 2 of them.
And I won the Kenosha City Championship this year. From Carlos Duran Jr. Does Cubone have a fighting chance if you run it with Ninetales, Crushing Hammer, and Lost Rover? Unfortunately, although Cubone is near and dear to my heart, and I've trolled many of people online with it, Mewtwo was the death of Cubone.
Yeah, I'm sure it was Mewtwo.
Hey, let me
I
tell
don't know,
you.
it can evolve into a Kangaskhan.
It's true.
Alright, anyway, my point was, that straight up beat Zekrom, Tornadus, Patchy, Shaman. That was an auto win, man. You couldn't damage Cubone after I got 4 Marowaks in there.
So sick.
Well, you need to play 1 Kangaskhan. And then when it gets knocked out, it just has like a body to turn into a Cubone.
So you're telling me that if this Zekrom Electric deck gets really popular and they ban Mewtwo, you're going straight to your Cubone. That's going to be your first...
Because Zekrom EX came out. The EX has killed Cubone.
Aw, that sucks.
I'm waiting for people in the chat to like get that little Cubone Kangaskhan thing.
Alright,
from
next question.
Leaky Marking. Will Celebi Mewtwo Tornadus still be good at Nationals, or do you think the new set will make the deck not good? Also, should I buy Mewtwo's now or later?
I don't know what the new set does.
It's the dark set.
I mean, I'd probably wait up on it, because I think there's a good chance that Celebi Mewtwo Tornadus isn't going to be good after that set.
I don't know. I think if you held out on buying Mewtwo's for this long, probably shouldn't buy any.
Just keep on holding on.
Yeah, I think it'll be viable to not use Mewtwo when the next set comes out. And I think Celebi Tornadus will be better, because you get Tornadus EX, which does 100 for 3.
You can just
so
cut
that
Tornadus
deck-
completely.
Huh?
You can just cut your normal Tornadus for 4 Tornadus EX.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I'm
deck will still
here.
be around. We'll see. Who knows? We don't know what's exactly going to be in the set and how metagame's going to turn out. So, from Confessor Davila, what do you guys feel is the best rogue deck going into regionals?
Terrakion is the rogue.
It's not rogue anymore, man.
Dude, there's no rogue. I mean,
Man,
I don't
rogue.
even like the term rogue. I
That's
really
like-
don't like.
I don't even know what decks. Like that just implies I don't know what deck it's gonna be. So like,
It's like the Mew Vanillux Vileplume thing.
people know about that deck.
Yeah, I
So
don't,
Yeah, I know. But
So is it
nobody
rogue
plays
at that
it.
point?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
guess-
I'm not a fan of the term.
Unanswerable question.
Super Legend Board is my answer.
Oh, give me your.
I'm going with Embor Magnezone. My boy
Oh,
Embor.
Thunderdome, baby.
I play RDL. I can take 3 prizes. Boom.
I played
Yeah,
Magnezone.
I played had Bad Deck Monday on Monday, and some guy thought he was cool. He dropped a full art Mewtwo, and I dropped RDL and I took 3 prizes. And then he dropped another full art Mewtwo, knocked me out, and I dropped another RDL and I took 3 more prizes and I won the game.
But you
So
didn't see that
6
coming.
prizes and 2 attacks. That's a good feeling.
Mhm.
But from Edmund Nell, he wants to know if we can explain the ins and outs of the Zekrom Electric versus CMT matchup. What tech cards could help? Geez, he's got a lot of questions. And what do you think about the double elimination tournament styles, like Evolution? I don't know what Evolution is.
That's a fighting game tournament.
Oh, okay. He says those tournaments play in timely fashions.
Double elim.
First is Zekrom Electric versus CMT, and then there's any techs that help, and the double elimination tournaments, whichever you guys want to tackle first.
Alright. CMT can run Terrakion to give itself a better chance. There's also things like Tyrogue, which are really good against Dynamo. I've seen people run Bouffalant, which is actually really good against Electric. I mean, there's certain things you can do on both sides. I think Zekrom Electric with base list has the advantage, so it's a CMT deck that has to tech a lot. I mean, that should cover that first question, right? So let's just cover that part first.
Sure.
Alright, Pram, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. The Thunderous is really what brings the matchup into Zekrom Electric's favor. You know, CMT can run techs like Terrakion, but then that messes with your energy line. So then your overall base list is just much poorer than what it should be. So it's kind of hard to tech in cards for that matchup as the CMT player. So, and even then, like, if you're just staring down like 3 Electrics or 3 Thunderouses, the game might be over. Because the idea is to force a Mewtwo hit. And then at that point, well, you can, the Zekrom Electric player has, I can either counter Mewtwo kill you, or I can take 2 prizes with 2 Pokemon. You know, not a big deal. Also, N hurts CMT much harder than it hurts Zekrom Electric. Zekrom Electric can just live off a 1-card hand if their board is just good, right? But CMT, if they don't have any energy on the board and they get N to 1, well, game is pretty much over unless they draw a supporter and a bunch of energy off that supporter.
Yep.
I think the way it goes is early on the CMT deck has the advantage. I mean, if you can start attacking turn 1, that's perfect. Turn 2 is even pretty solid. Start catching up Dynamos. But once you get to about turn 4 or 5, you run out of easy targets, and that's when the game kind of gets tough. Electrics get more difficult to knock out. What are you doing over there?
Nothing.
Electrics get tough to knock out because they have 90 hit points. The Tornadus only does 80. So it really gets to a point where usually the CMT deck takes an early lead, but then once the Zekrom Electric player starts stabilizing, its attackers are just better. Thunderous obviously is better against Tornadus than Tornadus is against Lightning Pokemon. And then Zekrom is pretty much defines it once it gets out. It's just, okay, I'm going to hit you for 120, and there's really not much in your deck that can knock me out unless you play Terrakion. So, I think eventually that matchup just turns into a Mewtwo war because the CMT deck just doesn't have normal attackers that can stand up to the Zekrom Electric deck. So, it has to hit early on and knock out Dynamos, get a lead, and then finish out the game with Mewtwo, I think. Unless it plays Terrakions, and then it gets a little different, but... and Bouffalant, I guess. But, even when you play Terrakion, that can still get knocked out, and then you still... I think it still always somehow ends up in a Mewtwo war, one way or another.
I mean, really, the way that I've seen it happen is if CMT falls behind early, it's dead. I mean, that's just the way it is. CMT has to be the aggressor. Excuse me. But either way, you have something like an 80 damage cap with Tornadus. Obviously, if you run multiple plus powers, you're gonna want to have to draw into your plus powers if you don't play things like Bouffalant. But you need to find ways to take early KOs. You need to get to your you need to race the 4 prizes. That way, you don't have to do the whole Mewtwo war. But once you get to 4 prizes, you're good. I mean, obviously, because then you establish a Mewtwo lock where you can play 2 Mewtwo's. If you get to 4 prizes, which I mean, obviously, it doesn't happen very often. You get to 4 prizes, you have 2 left. You take a Mewtwo for your 5th prize, and that's it. Your game because you have the last Mewtwo in play. Very hard, very difficult to establish this. This is an ideal situation. But the CMT deck has to race to this. That's its goal. the Zekrom Electric deck wants to kind of weather the storm, and if they can force the the Celebi Tornadus player to do the Mewtwo early, then there's a very good chance that they win because, I mean, they can kill things way easier than Celebi Mewtwo Tornadus can in the late game. It's just that simple. They can take easy one prizes, or they can force you to take one prize very easily.
And as for
about elimination,
as for double elimination, I don't mind it. I don't think it's that bad because if you think about it, a lot of the tournament is double elimination.
Wait, what?
As long as those 2 out of 3.
Are they trying to say top cut double elimination?
No, just double elimination in general.
Instead of Swiss.
Oh no, that's terrible, dude.
It's really not that different from what we have now.
You do best 2 out of 3 double elimination.
How do you solve buys?
You give a bye round 1.
How do you solve buys?
You give a bye round 1.
What I'm saying is, most of these tournaments that have single elimination and double elimination are meant for like this bracket style. They have like 32 players, 60 players.
I mean, even if you can, you were in the grinder.
Yeah, it's a terrible system, and that's what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't. I mean, wait, are they arguing this for like? I guess what I'm wondering is, are they arguing this for like cities and stuff like that?
It's really not that bad if you think about it. States is effectively double. Swiss is effectively double elimination. You lose twice.
In a way, but it's all the structure for double elimination is a pain in the butt, dude.
You lose twice, you're basically out, anyways.
What I'm saying is, like, it's a pain in the butt to like understand double elimination, like
no,
brackets.
It's actually fairly simple.
For the amateur player, I mean, even if you're, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of having.
Have you seen Karate Kid?
Random buys on round 1 is done.
Have you seen Karate Kid? Yes or no?
Yes.
Then you know how a bracket works.
Shut up. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather stay in a Swiss format tournament.
I don't mind either way, to be honest. I think Swisses are effectively double elimination anyways.
I don't mind it, but I think Swiss is just kind of what Pokemon is used. It's really what most card games use, so...
I mean, think about it, man. You travel X hours to a tournament, and obviously we don't care because this is reasonable for us, but a Pokepop or whatever travels X hours to a tournament, and then they lose round 1, they lose round 2, and then they're like, well, all right, cool. Well, the tournament's over in 2 hours.
In terms of winning the tournament, if you go 0-2 anyways, you're probably done.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. From an amateur player perspective, it's not fun.
Yeah, you know what you can do during that? Side events.
There is something to that. Some people just come to play.
I know, but
they don't want to just
you can have
be
side
knocked
events
out of a tournament. Yeah,
dude,
but
some people are proud of having a winning record at the end of their tournament. Like, some people are like, yes, 4-3, I did it. You know, I started off with 0-2, I got to 4-3. Oh, baby, this is my first, winning record.
I think that's something they convince themselves after they're in the 0-2 situation.
There's also something to be said for the ELO system. Even though it's not the main focus, it's still around. Like, if you start 0-2 at a tournament and it like kills your ELO rating, you can still play it out. It also messes with the championship point stuff, I think.
Well, if they did a double elimination, you would have to get rid of ELO completely.
Yeah, which I don't think they want to do.
I think there's a fat chance of us ever getting double elimination for our tournament structures. I mean, whether we would like it or not.
I mean, I agree. It's a lot more serious than in terms of the way it appears to everyone else. But I think effectively, if your goal is to win the tournament, the double elimination standard is actually much more favorable for you.
All right. So we have quite a few questions left. We've been going for a little bit, so I'll start to pick through these. Starting with the most important question from Sean Roast. Who do you guys think would win in a street fight, Pramawat or Crims?
Let's not answer this question. It's not fair. It's not fair. Poor Pram. Come on now.
Come on, you know what would happen, right? We just go, come at me, bro. Come at me, bro.
Have you seen these guns? Have you seen these guns?
No, I'm gonna tell you how the fight would go. Come at me, bro. I'm right here, bro. Come at me, bro.
You realize this is a street fight, meaning you're not just fighting Michael Fremlot, you were fighting Big Ben Potter as well.
Well, while you're distracted with that, I'll find some. I'll just buy off people. And be like, "What's Crim's weakness?"
Definitely not getting tinted. Oh man. Hey man, I'm just gonna say one thing. I'm Mexican. All right. It runs in my bloodline. It's clearly. Clearly the winner here.
I can make the. What are you talking about? I'm half Thai. Muay Thai is like way more dangerous than anything Mexico
Bro,
can do.
We street fight. That's what we do.
Muay Thai is like
a street fight.
Growing up in the mean streets of Yuma,
guaranteed. Muay Thai will like dominate any type of street fighting. Dominate.
What if it involves a knife?
All right. Next question.
Dominate. You know what the hardest bone on the body is? Man. You take that to the face, you're dead.
Alright, from Carlos Duran Jr., what's your opinion on Zapdos from Next Step Series?
I don't know what it is.
Pretty good draft pick.
Wait a minute. The 2 colorless and then a lightning to deal 50 anywhere? Is that it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine. That's whatever.
It's a pretty good draft pick.
For 4 energy, you flip 4 coins, and then if you flip 4 heads, you knock out a Mewtwo.
Whoa! Why doesn't Pram run this thing?
I've been in situations like that. There was one situation. I'll tell the story another time. Well, Sammy tells the story all the time, though. Sakun.
Where Sammy was like, alright, this guy's got no way out, this game's over. And then Pram goes, got it. And there's just a Machamp sitting there with no damage on it. And Pram puts down a Ditto, and he goes, Crobat, 10 on Machamp. And then Bronzong moves an energy to Ditto, attach, he goes, Hurricane Punch.
You're a sick
flips
man.
4 heads.
You are a
He flips
sick
4
man.
heads, he knocks it out. And Sammy made fun of him the rest of the weekend.
Hey, it's like, never give up, never surrender.
I was just kidding about that Zapdos thing, man. Come on. This is not right.
I've been in those
If you play
situations.
Bikini, you get to do it twice.
It was great because the first 2 were heads, and then the third one was tails, and then my heart dropped, and I was like, oh, whatever. 4th one, just go.
I think Zapdos is okay. I just think it sucks to start with it. That's all. Alright, let's skip through some questions. Skipping over all the Darkrai ones, sorry. Got some from Twitter. Let's see, from Anthony Smith. Could you broadly discuss any misplays or judging calls or rules that you might have disagreed with from states, or any controversial calls? And how do you think judges should handle these kinds of things? Do you think judges handle these controversial situations well, I guess, is the point of the question.
So they're asking if we notice any bad judging, and if for controversial judge calls, rather?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, for one, that one where my opponent got to where my opponent shuffled that pawn into his deck and then looked for it or whatever, he only got a prize penalty for that. I wasn't gonna argue it. I didn't really care. I wasn't a fan of the situation to begin with. But if there's ever a game loss, it's that. I mean, that's like he got a brand new fresh hand of 6, and for all you know, and again, I'm pretty sure he had the pawn in his hand. But I'm just saying, if you're gonna be impartial, that's just the easiest way to get yourself out of a terrible spot in the first place. And I'm pretty sure that's a game loss under the rule books.
The only one,
in fact, I'm like very sure it's a game loss.
The only one I can think of,
very sure,
because
sure.
most of the
handle it. I've seen it handled differently.
Most of the events.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. I'm sorry, Pram. I don't mean to interrupt you, but the rules are very ambiguous. Like the way that they work. Like I've seen one situation be handled one way and a completely different way, and that's just not right. They need to have very direct rules when it comes to these things. I've seen game losses be issued for things far less crucial than shuffling your hand into your deck and drawing a brand new 6 for no reason. And I've seen prize penalties be issued for something way worse than this type of stuff. That's not right. And I've seen the same ruling or the same situation get two different rulings. That's just not right too. They definitely need to fix this for coming years because it's not a professional way of handling things. You need to have a rule set that all judges follow.
Yeah, there's two that comes to mind. The first one was on stream at Virginia State's. There was a sudden... Okay, basically what happened was it was round 6, so the results really didn't matter too much, but there was a double knockout for last prize on each side, where Zekrom bolt striked itself to death, not for taking its last prize, knocking out Terrakion, where that self-damage. Terrakion also takes his last prize. And no one realized Zekrom was killing itself because of plus power. So, and then, thanks to you all who are watching the stream, kindly pointed it out very quickly, but unfortunately we were not quick enough to say, hey, you guys got to play a sudden death, and no one really knew how to handle it, so we just, the match slip stood as signed. So, that's kind of, no one really knew what to do, and both players just agreed, whatever, match slips is signed. And so, that's something that maybe they should put in some rules for. And a second one was when I was playing out of states, in one of my matches, he played, I had to like set this one up. So he Junipers away a Seeker turn 1 because of Portrait, and then he plays a Seeker in mid-game, right? And then a third Seeker comes down, and I go, wait a minute, 3 Seekers seems kind of ridiculous. So I check his discard, and there was only 2. So somehow a Seeker got from his discard to his
hand,
to his deck, and then he redrew it.
Or
hand, or whatever. And it came down to my word against his. So, luckily I kind of trapped him into agreeing with my story first before I showed him his discard. Because I was like, wait a minute, let me see your discard. You agree on this one Seeker, you agree on the mid-game Seeker, and you agree on the Seeker you just played? And he said, yeah. So I showed him 2 Seekers, and luckily he agreed to scoop because I don't think he did it on purpose, but it was just one of those situations where it was just like, and the judge looked literally baffled on what to do.
That sucks.
So he was like, if he had pushed his story and I had pushed mine, it literally became my word versus his.
And he wins by default.
Yeah, he would win by default. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's. Nobody ever said judging was going to be easy, man. Judging's tough. I mean, at least myself personally, I really hope that judges don't take this the wrong way. I understand that they're not perfect, and I understand that they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's just the way it is. But, geez, I mean, that sucks. That situation is actually really tough. And I don't think that's. I mean, granted, the judge never actually made a mistake there, but I don't think you can really fault the judge for siding with your opponent if it actually came down to it.
I know.
I think you should side with your opponent, which just sucks and it's unfair.
But it was like that was like the worst. That was like a potential like catastrophic like judging call if he got put in that situation.
If there's one thing that I really want to point and like not point out, but like really want to push, it's the fact that judges should never give the opportunity or give the option to the players. Never. It's rude. It's rude, and it's just unfair to the player who you're giving the option to, because obviously at that point you know that the correct ruling is to. I mean, if the ruling is in the player's hand, then that means that the judge acknowledges that he's about to not screw over, but he's about to rule against the defending player. I mean, because otherwise he would just say no, you know. So he's saying, look, I'm about to rule against the defending player, but I'm giving you the chance to save him. You shouldn't do that. You know, if the defending player messed up, so be it. You could have been the defending player just as easily, and so be it. Mm-hmm. Move on. But absolutely, there's one thing I want to stress is that, because I saw a huge situation happen in Top Cut. I think it was in top top 16 of Nevada states. Check this out. Two players are in two players are in this situation where this gentleman is, for all intents and purposes, he's about to win. The player B says, "All right, I scoop." He's about to scoop up his cards, or he does scoop up his cards. Then at that point, I think spectators said, "Hey, look, you didn't lose, you didn't lose, you didn't lose." And then the judge says, "Hey, or they all say he didn't lose." And he's like, "Oh man, you're right. I think like the Pokemon was asleep or something. I can't remember." So he tries to set it back up, and he's like, "All right, well, I actually didn't, I didn't see my cards. My prizes are still here. Everything's still fine." Yeah, he did actually get it back to pretty much the same game state, but he had already scooped. He had already said, "I resigned. I scooped. Handshake was done. Everything." And the judge, they got the judge involved and everything like that, and they actually told the player who had already won the tournament, who had already won that match, "Hey, look, it's up to you." And he's like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, it's unfair.
You want me to not take my win?
It's unfair to the players for staff to put people in that position. Staff is there to make the tough calls, and
And granted, at the end, they definitely saved it by they were taking so long because the player obviously didn't want to say no, you lose, but he also didn't want to say no, move on, let's play on, because I think he was the defending player was actually about to win. He made a big mistake, and he was this close to winning, and he actually scooped himself out of the game. But he was like, "Come on, man, let me play this out. Let's determine who the right player, who the winning player is." And this guy's sitting there going "Are you really gonna ask me to do this?" And for let's say no less than 5 minutes they were doing this, and finally the head judge or the TO, one of the two, was like, "All right, that's it. I'm taking the ruling out. I'm taking the matter out of your hands. I'm ruling it now." But at one point, one of the judges was willing to let the guy take it back, and it came to that. That's silly. I'm glad it got saved.
Yeah, but, that's definitely one of the worst horror stories I've ever heard in terms of judging.
I think the main thing judges have a problem with is knowing when, or not knowing when they're doing too much. Some judges go too far, they get way too into the matches. I've had judges come into my games and just out of nowhere say, "You're taking too long," and then at the end of the game, after time's called, they come over and say, "By the way, you guys have a time extension," for no reason. Had stuff like that happen, but at the end of the day, judges really, they can't win. If they do everything right, people don't really notice. They just, "Hey, you guys are doing your job," but if they screw up ever, then people are all over them. So I think judges deserve a little more respect than they get. They have a really tough job, but if anything, they need to come up with some system, which I'm sure they're trying to do, to have a unified set of, in this situation, this happens, this is what we need to do. Right now, they're just guidelines, which means judges can look in these books, they see, "All right, this is the guideline for what I'm supposed to do, but I can still make a decision to do something else." And I don't think that's right. You need to have, okay, this happened, this needs to be the penalty, and I don't see that happen too often. They say, okay, this is what the suggested penalty is at this level, and then they make a judgment call, and that's where kind of fishy stuff happens. Actually, at this last state championship in Illinois, one of the players, he kind of got lazy, I guess. He wrote down all of his Pokemon, he wrote down all the numbers, he didn't write any of the sets or any of the cards. And they looked through the guidelines, and they're like, the official guideline, the suggestion for what we're supposed to do, when you don't write any of the sets for any of your Pokemon, so we're supposed to replace them with basic energy. So, not a single Pokemon on his list had a set. So, if they had followed that, he
so
actually just, he instantly loses, because
his deck's illegal
all
at
his
that point.
Pokemon become energy, and then his deck no longer becomes legal, and then he loses. So, they had to make a tough decision. Do we pretty much just disqualify this guy because he was too lazy to write down the sets? Now, if you look at it with common sense, you see, okay, he wrote down the Pokemon, he wrote down the set numbers, I mean, they match up. There were actually a couple that didn't match up, which was the worst part. But I mean, you can see like, okay, he's running a Zekrom, and it's got the number, the same one as the black and white one. Obviously, this is what he intended to do, but he didn't write the set. And every other Zekrom, it's the same card. So even if he wrote down the wrong number, like the art, who cares? It's the card, and even like more specific when you get down to like electric, there's only one that exists. Are you really going to punish a guy for not writing, okay, this is from Noble Victories, even though he wrote down the number, he wrote down electric? Are you going to punish a guy for that? And they almost did. They almost just disqualified him from the tournament just for that. It took a long time to resolve. Yeah, I think if you do that, that would have been a huge mistake. Even though, yeah, he should have filled out his whole list. That's like way too severe of a punishment just for not writing the set, when clearly you know which cards he's running.
Yeah.
So they almost made a huge mistake, but at the end they were just like, okay, we're going to let this slide, we're going to give you a warning, but he listed the numbers wrong for his Clef and his Mewtwo, so they made him get rid of those.
Yeah. I think as long as you can clearly read intent, that, for at least for deck lists go, like if there's something just missing, tough, right? If you're missing communications, tough, you have to play fighting energy. But if if you can just see like Mewtwo set numbers right there, or rather Mewtwo EX, even just Mewtwo EX, I think I would have let the Mewtwo EX slide.
Yeah, even that was bad.
And the Cleffa I would have let slide. But like if it was Dynamo, and he wrote down only the set but no set number, that one's like
he wrote the numbers.
I know. I'm just saying, like, for example, if he only wrote the set but no set number, that one's like, that might just be poor energy. You know.
But the less to fill out your list.
Yeah, I think first off, just don't get into this situation. Second off, if you do, hopefully you were conscious enough to put at least a clear sign of intent on what you wanted to play.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright. Put in a lot on this subject. So we'll take, let's see, like 2 more questions and we'll call it a night. So the first one's from Isaiah Middleton. Do you think we'll see a metagame shift going into regionals? It says for him, week 1 was Zekrom Electric everywhere. Week 2, there was a lot of Zekrom Electric hate, and he used Celebi to win a state. And then week 3, he faced 4 Celebi mirror matches and a bunch of rogue decks and 0 Zekrom Electric decks. So right there you can see a little bit of a shift already in his area. But do you think we'll see even more of a shift away from Zekrom Electric and more towards the metagame counter decks?
I think it has to. I think the regionals metagame is going to find more of a balance. Like I still think Zekrom Electric is going to be the most played deck, but not as in such numbers like week 1 was, not in such percentages. So I think it's going to be like number 1 Zekrom Electric, number 2 is probably Celebi, a close second, and then that's probably going to take up like 75% of the decks, whereas the next 25 are like counters and attempted rogue.
Regionals is just like nationals, where you have a field that's so large that you have to expect for the tier 1 decks to be in full force, and then you just expect for the rest of the field to just be, more spread out. You're looking at multiple areas joining into one, so it's that simple. Yeah, I expect for you. It's not like states where you only have a couple hundred players or 100 players or whatever. I mean, you're gonna have what 250 players or plus or something like that, or maybe I'm just speaking for California, for the California area. But
I mean, there's only I think 5 or 6 regionals, so these are going to be big tournaments. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. These are going to be huge tournaments, and you can't assume that you're going to be able to pinpoint the metagaming much like you can in states. I think I think you just have to be ready for diversity more than anything.
Yeah,
And you have to know that you're going to be facing several of these Zekrom Electric decks in the tournament, no matter where you are.
I mean, just some guidelines. The deck you play has to go at least 50-50 with Zekrom Electric and CMT. And that's pretty much all the guidelines is for right now. The other decks you can skip on.
Cool deal. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll probably see more people kind of go out there because this is kind of what I touched on last week, where going into states, nobody has a real idea of what the metagame is going to be like because that's just a new set just came out, so people have to adapt. And then week one is just kind of, alright, here's what everybody thought was good, that's what they played. And week two, you saw, alright, this is what happened week one, I'm either going to copy that or try to beat it. And most people are just going to copy it because there's not enough time to test something that will beat it. And then the third week is more of the same. But now you have like 2 or 3 weeks in between states and regionals where people can see, okay, these are the decks that did well at states. If I want to build a deck that can beat the top decks, I have some time to test. So there's an opportunity for people to test decks and figure out something before regionals going into it. So I think we'll see more attempts at people trying to think outside the box, but for the most part, yeah, it's just going to be the same 2 top decks, and I wouldn't try to account for anything except lots of Zekrom Electric decks and Selby, and maybe Durant.
Sure.
Alright, so we will take one more question. Let's see. From Dwayne Bomberg Schonberg. Do you think the Troll deck has an opportunity to be a top deck come regionals? So the Troll deck is the Tornadus Terrakion deck, which now has Mewtwo, I think.
Yeah, it does.
Exclusively featured on the West Coast so far.
And that's the exact reason why I don't think it's going to have the opportunity to become a top deck. It's a West Coast only deck. It definitely thrives in the West Coast metagame. It's a good deck, don't get me wrong. I've played against it several times. I mean, it's got reasonable matchups against the top 2 decks, and that's something you definitely want. But will it be a top tier deck? No, because nobody in the East knows about it. Nobody in the Midwest knows about it. You just can't be a top deck if you're stuck in one state, even if it is the biggest state. So, great deck. Yeah, you can quote me on it. It's a great deck. All right, fine. Congratulations, Sourbury and company. But I mean, it's a normal deck, and I'm sure that there are decks that are better than it. I'll say that, or at least better suited for other metagames. But I don't think it has the ability to be the best deck, only because it's too West Coast oriented. It's nobody in the East knows about it. I mean, if you say Troll deck anywhere else, you're gonna be like, what? Huh? What deck? So at that point, from that perspective alone, you know that you can't be the best deck. You're just not out there enough.
It's just saying to be a top deck.
Yeah, and I mean, to be a top deck, you have to be extremely popular. That's part of being a top deck.
That's just not exactly.
There's
I mean,
different
you can be a
definitions of
tournament
top deck. It could be a deck that has a lot of results at the top of regionals, or is it a contender, like a tier 1 contender, which has the ability to beat all these other decks?
When you say top deck, when they say top deck, what comes into mind is what's the best deck in the format, rather than what's the most played, what all that other stuff, the most results. If you play them in a 10-game series, what deck would win more in each matchup? And is it a top deck? I don't know. Again, it is like a West Coast only thing. I don't really know what's.
You got more experience with that deck than any of us, alright, buddy?
I mean,
any of the top decks.
I had a pretty bad experience with it, but that was in a format where everything was much slower. I don't know, man. I don't know. I was with Tails with Dual Ball that day. I may have been just running bad. Who knows?
You run bad?
It happens.
I think the deck is like an extension of the solo Terrakion deck. Like, it's like, alright, we're playing this, but we're throwing in Tornadus too, and then we're playing Double Colorless, so we might as well play Mewtwo. I think it's very similar to that deck, but it has Tornadus as an alternate attacker. So I think it has the same flaws as the Terrakion deck, where, yeah, it'll lose to the Trainer Lock stuff still, I think, but it'll do well against the electric decks for sure. It's got solid matchup against that. I don't know how it would do against the Celebi stuff, but and it's gonna have a solid Durant matchup, depending on what Pokemon you start with. So it's a solid deck. I don't know if it's a top 3 deck, or I don't know what it is. It's definitely not the top 2 decks, just based on how much it's played. So I think it would be an okay choice for regionals, but if you go into regionals, are you going to expect to play against it? Not if you live anywhere, not in California. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Alright, well, that's all the questions we're going to take, so this is taking quite a while.
Alright, I think we're good. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Wrap up.
Shoutouts.
Alright. Yeah, I'm here at Cosmopolitan for the last 4 days, watching IPL 4. I know that a lot of you Pokemon players wish you were in my shoes. Can't say that I blame you. Yeah, it's going to be a great tournament. I can't wait to tweet about it at Crims23, hint, hint, wink, wink. I wish more of you guys were here because I know a lot of you guys are our fans, and I'm just going to hope to have enough fun and take a lot of pictures and see if I can recommend this experience to other people when they have an opportunity to come. One more thing I want to mention. I got into a Game of Thrones TCG, LCG recently. Oh yeah. If any of you guys play this game, tweet at me, at Crims23. Or Facebook me, I guess. But either way, I just got into it recently. It's actually kind of a fun game. I've been doing it a lot here in my downtime. And I just want to get better at it. I enjoy the mechanics of it. I think it's fun. So if any of you guys play it, hit me up. And yeah, hopefully, I don't know if we'll go to regionals. I'm not for sure. I live really, really far away from even the nearest regional to me, 12 hours drive. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, if I don't go to them, good luck. If I do go to them, say hi, and I'll see you guys here next week.
All right, I'll do mine. Follow me at Michael Permalot. We are 19 people ahead of Crims 23. That number has grown a little bit during the show, so thank you guys.
CRIMZ. Z, not S.
That's where you're going wrong. Your name is confusing, man. Nobody knows how to find you.
People know how to find me. It's pretty easy. Let's see. Since Crim is tweeting about IPL, I guess I will also tweet about IPL and we can discuss about it. You can tweet back. It'll be cool.
Oh yeah, well if you follow me, I'll have pictures of Anna Prosser, huh? How about that one? Can you get pictures of her?
Yes. Google, man.
Live pictures.
A quick little shout out for vote for Hotbid on the Maxim Gamer Girl. Promote esports a little bit.
He's doing pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in
winning.
second place.
Who's the first?
Number 1 is some girl from World of Warcraft. So Googled her. She's pretty popular, but you don't need to be. Right now, they're only taking the top 3, so keep esports alive. And about Game of Thrones, that's cool, but don't tweet at Crim about it. He probably won't tweet back. So follow Michael Permalot.
Game of Thrones fan.
Oh, and
follow TV show. Also tweet at me.
I'm gonna be a better person and say, also follow Pooka311, follow Drew Holton, and follow our show at the Top Cut, at Top Cut Pokemon, and unfollow Crims23.
All right, let's, I guess, call it a night. Thanks everybody for watching. Follow us on Twitter, Top Cut Pokemon, Michael Permalot, Crims23, Pooka311, Drew Holton, etc., etc. Like us on Facebook, Top Cut Pokemon, YouTube channel, Top Cut Pokemon, website, thetopcut.net, and of course, our stream, twitch.tv/thetopcut. It is all of our various websites, I'm pretty sure. Email us if you have any concerns at thetopcutpokemon@gmail.com. If you have any questions for our weekly news show, Poke Center, it's ttcpokecenter@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to support us, we have a little chip-in widget for donations, and that is all the shameless promotion I have. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you next week.
Would win in a street fight. Tweet at me with that. Tweet at me and let me know that I would win in a street fight. Back my ego up. Back my ego up.
I've played around with nunchucks before.
Yeah, so have I. It didn't end well.
I ended up a little bruised, but I learned to not hit myself eventually.
Alright, we will see you guys next week.
See ya.
Take it easy, guys.